We got some big Habs trade deadline updates as apparently Jordan Harris is being shopped by the Montreal Canadiens and Kent Hughes. Which teams could use Jordan Harris and what might the Habs get back for him? We'll dive into that. Plus, the Trevor Zegras rumors keep on intensifying as apparently Kent Hughes was one of only 4 or 5 general managers to call the Anaheim Ducks regarding the star young forward. We got that plus a recap of the Habs game tonight, all on this episode of Habs Digest. We're going to jump first into the game. Look, Habs versus Sabres. The Habs have been doing well against the Sabres as of late. Of course, we know Jeff Skinner is the Hab killer, and he showed it again tonight. But look, we're going to look past the loss. The Habs had a great push in the third period, and despite the fact a couple of the goals in this game were the direct responsibilities of Yoel Armia in one case, trying to dangle in the offensive zone, leading into a rush the other way that leads into a power play goal. Cole Caufield in the other one were on a power play. Somehow he turns the puck over 3 or 4 times in a row. Final one leading to a tuck shorthanded goal. But let's take a look at the positives. And there's a couple of guys that are going to jump out here at you. Now, the first one being maybe Arber Xhekaj and Jaden Struble, the first 2 guys, because they were the only 2 goal scorers for the Montreal Canadiens tonight. 2 guys that are arguably fighting for each other's jobs. Xhekaj logging almost 19 minutes on the ice with a goal, a massive hit. He was phenomenal, and he was pretty much the story of this game for Montreal, along with another guy I'll talk about in just a minute. But Arber Xhekaj, my goodness, every time he's on the ice, you notice him, right? It feels like, how could we possibly send him back down? I know there was talk about, what's going to happen on the left side of defense now? Well, yeah, as we're going to get into later in the video, seems like one of the Habs left D-men is being shopped, and there's no surprise. It feels like Arber Xhekaj has solidified his spot. If he didn't, when he first came back up from Laval, showing he's improved at his discipline, his defensive ability, then it's now. Like, Arber Xhekaj scoring another goal. What a shot from him. Just unbelievable stuff from Arber Xhekaj. One of everyone's favorite Habs to watch. He brings that physicality. His defensive play does seem a lot more disciplined, a lot more well thought out, and that offensive upside, like borderline untapped offensive upside. Like, we're seeing some of the stuff he's putting in the back of the net. I feel like with another year or 2, maybe some work with Dr. Shot, who knows, Arber Xhekaj can be really dangerous. He almost had another assist on a goal tonight on a point shot that, again, his point shots always just find a way to get to the net, don't they? And it was tipped by Josh Anderson, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen had to make an insane save off a puck that bounced off the ice. So a shout out to Arber Xhekaj. But the other guy I wanted to mention is Joshua Roy with 2 assists tonight. The first one being a one-handed flopping to the ice swing of his stick that poked the puck out to Arber for that weird one-time slap shot. Joshua Roy with 2 assists. He was one of the best players on Montreal tonight despite only getting 11 minutes of ice time. Now, again, he's still young, but he's starting to get some power play time. He was out there late in the game as well when the Habs are trying to mount that comeback to score late in the third period. And once again, Joshua Roy just proving that at the NHL level, he looks like he fits in. I mean, he fits in really well with Newhook, Anderson, whoever you have in his line, whether it's Armia, there's a bunch of different guys you can put with him. It doesn't matter. Joshua Roy is going to find a way to create opportunities for his teammates, and that's something we really wanted to see from him because Joshua Roy, the cliche for pretty much any prospect that you're not so sure about is, he needs to improve his skating. Well, with Joshua Roy, that kind of was the case. I mean, he always looked like he was fine. He was never below average for a skater in the AHL. It was just kind of like he's a fine skater. But at the NHL level, the question was more so, will it translate? And if he wants to for sure translate, maybe improve on it. And he has a bit. And because at the NHL level, he doesn't look slow. He looks like he's getting to his spots exactly when he wants to get to his spots. And he's creating opportunities, not just with his current line mates, with his other line mates before, Sean Monahan. It doesn't matter. Joshua was able to adapt. So really awesome stuff from him. Awesome stuff from Xhekaj. Struble with that point shot that deflected off Buffalo Sabre. I forget who it was. It might have been Peyton Krebs, I think. But yeah, it's cool stuff there. I mean, look, it was a loss. Suzuki's point streak is snapped. Slafkovsky's point streak is snapped. Caufield didn't get a point either. It was not his night tonight. But you know what that does mean? It means the Habs are now officially below the Buffalo Sabres in the standings. It means the Habs are officially third last in the Eastern Conference, and I believe in the slot for the 7th overall draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. Or wait, is it 7th? Yeah, I think there's 2 here, and then there's 4 other teams in the West that are worse. So all's not lost, right? Yeah, Montreal's a minus 42 on the season. That's second worst in the East behind only Columbus. How is Pittsburgh plus 11 and still that low in the standings? But that's kind of a good thing right now. Despite the fact we didn't see the point streaks continue, we saw Joshua Roy really take a nice step and have a phenomenal game. Arber Xhekaj scoring the goal, and the Habs are in position for a better draft pick. Honestly, all in all, you take the loss, you move on. Fun game to watch. Let's push on to the next one. But we got to start talking about some trade rumors. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. It's a subject we've talked a lot about on the channel, but we got a huge update. I did not expect to read this today. Now, I'm not surprised this happened, but I was a bit shocked to see what Pierre LeBrun said today. So NHL watcher, I mean, you could have watched. I saw the clip on SportsCenter with Jay on, right? So you can go find that yourself if you wish. This is more convenient to find the Twitter screenshot. But basically, Pierre LeBrun said, of the 4 or 5 teams that I'm told have phoned the Ducks, the Montreal Canadiens are one of them. So that is true, and why wouldn't they? But having said that, I don't get the sense right now that the Ducks are committed to moving it. And that's kind of something that we have said too, right? Like, why would the Ducks move Zegras? I mean, he's a guy who scored 60 points his first couple of seasons at such a young age. Yes, this season's not good. I mean, I feel like I'm just repeating everything everyone always says about Trevor Zegras. I'm going to stop with that. But Kent Hughes called. It makes sense that he did. And I think with a team like Montreal, with their track record of getting young, established players that fit the timeline, it just makes absolutely perfect sense that Kent Hughes would call on Zegras. And I think a lot of Habs fans would agree that if Kent Hughes didn't at least call to probe and see what the Anaheim Ducks would want, it'd kind of be a bad thing. So really glad he reached out. And we talked yesterday about a potential Adam Henrique trade where Montreal retains some salary. Well, hey, what if there's a way that the Habs could, make a little bit of a 3-team trade where they send some assets to another team and the Ducks send Zegras and Henrique out and the Ducks get some established NHL player from another team. Like, it can kind of work, right? I don't know if Henrique and Zegras could possibly be involved in the same trade. But yeah, Montreal is at least in the conversation. 4 or 5 teams called. Montreal's one of them. And don't forget, Craig Button about a week ago said the best fit for Trevor Zegras is Montreal. Seems like a lot of Habs insiders are making noise about this. I'm still extremely skeptical. I think, yeah, obviously Kent Hughes called. If Trevor Zegras, if there's even a rumbling that he's available, you got to check in on him. And Kent Hughes did just that. But any more than that, I just don't know. I'm not sure what the Habs could offer to the Anaheim Ducks that would intrigue them over Trevor Zegras right now, minus one of the Habs' top prospects. Like, I feel like if you're Anaheim, you're looking at the likes of Reinbacher, you're looking at Hudson, right? And those are kind of the guys you're going to start those conversations with. And I don't think, well, I mean, there's no way the Habs are parting with either of them. And the Ducks are probably saying, well, that's fine. We'll try and find something from another team. Don't know what those conversations are going to look like. Don't know if they'll, materialize from here. But just figured I'd give you guys an update. The fact that the Habs have been talking to the Ducks about Zegras. Really interesting. Final topic of the today, and this came out during the game. Now, a bit unexpected. Now, we've talked a little bit about Jordan Harris, how he was on one of the, I think it was Sportsnet's trade board as a guy that could get moved. And in that video, I spoke a lot about how Jordan Harris could be a great fit for the Calgary Flames. And I still believe that, but I'm going to get into that in a second. So Jacob Stoller, he writes for the Hockey News. He's a professional writer of hockey, I believe, writer. Is it maybe a PWJ? Yeah, I believe so. Anyway, regardless, Jacob Stoller, legit guy, got sources, and he has some great articles out there as well. I recommend you check him out. Check out his Twitter. But he tweeted during the game, hearing the Montreal Canadiens are shopping Jordan Harris ahead of the deadline. Harris is a 23-year-old left-hand defenseman who skates well, has one more year left at $1.4 million. Montreal's overflow of young D has made him expendable. Now, there's a few reasons why this is extremely interesting. The first being that Arber Xhekaj has seemingly solidified himself back here. He played 4 minutes more than Jayden Struble. Struble started off so hot with Montreal, but at this point, I've personally switched now. I was Team Struble for a bit, like he's just more solid. Hard to say I'm Team one or the other. There's a reason the Habs sent Xhekaj down, but since seeing Xhekaj come back, since he's been back from Laval, to me it's no question. Xhekaj is ahead of Struble on the pecking order, and with Guhle playing a lot more right D now, it kind of frees up, that one spot so Xhekaj can slide in. So what happens now, right? So if Xhekaj is for sure in there and Struble still seems solid, Harris definitely got to play tonight. He's used to playing a bit more on the right side, even though he's a bit weaker there. What do? It's an overflowing defenseman situation. I feel like with Lane Hudson coming in potentially at the end of the year too, something got to be done. Well, it just makes sense that Jordan Harris is the odd one out right now. It wouldn't surprise me if Montreal made the choice that Jayden Struble is the guy they prefer over Jordan Harris. I'm kind of of two minds about that. I really like Jordan Harris, but Struble has looked phenomenal in his limited, he's looked phenomenal for what we expected. Yes, he's taken a bit of a step down over the last few weeks, but I still think he has incredible potential. Maybe the Habs just see the ceiling as being higher. So to me, when this rumor came out, I was like, well, in my mind, this is who the Habs are settled on moving. Now, I don't, if you ask Kent Hughes, I'm sure he's not going to say, yes, Harris is the one we want to move. No, I'm sure they're listening to offers on a lot of their players. I'm sure teams are calling about everyone, but the fact that the rumor is Harris is being shopped, to me makes a lot of sense. If you want Xhekaj and you want Struble down the left side in the future, or even if you want Struble to be that 7th D and you want Guhle to eventually shift back to being a left-handed defenseman, that's a possibility too. So where would Harris go and what can Montreal get back? Well, to me, I still think Calgary is the spot, right? Calgary, now we know Noah Hanifin is going to get moved. We know basically Chris Tanev is going to get moved. Calgary's going to need someone to fill in some of those minutes, and who better than an established NHLer in Jordan Harris, who's still quite young on a very low-risk contract. He can slide in and play a solid second pairing, very good third pairing defenseman at just about $1.5 million per year, a cap hit that's very, very reasonable, especially for a team like Calgary. He's still young. You still have his RFA rights, I believe, after his contract is over. So it's like, it's a super low risk move to take on someone like a Jordan Harris. Now, what would Montreal want in return? Well, it could be a lot of things, right? Calgary could offer maybe a third round pick, third round pick. Montreal might bite at that. They might, facilitate a trade with another team. It's hard to say for sure, but I think Harris's value is more than a lot of Habs fans make it out to be. Like, this guy, he's a legit player who, in the right situation, could eventually turn into a guy that can maybe play on your power play. I don't necessarily see him doing that, but I'm saying, like, if he ends up getting to his ceiling, I don't see why he couldn't be a power play type of guy. He's a great skater with a good bit of offensive upside, maybe a few years down the line. But I think the Habs would command a decent price for him, and I think teams would come shopping because, again, it's not often you get a young, team-controlled defenseman who already has a good amount of NHL experience on a solid, like, only $1.5 million contract. It's a good asset for a lot of teams who are in the position to take him. So I think it makes sense that Kent Hughes is doing this. I bet you he can get some solid draft compensation for Jordan Harris, and I bet you that draft compensation can turn into something, maybe a bigger trade for someone like a Trevor Zegras come later in the season as we approach the trade deadline, or even in the off season once we can finally move Jake Allen. We can get a lot of the things on the books figured out. There's so many possibilities, and it's so exciting to talk about all of this. But for there, I'm gonna have to stop. What do you guys think about Jordan Harris potentially being on the move? I know we talked about it a bit before, but hey, if it happens, I think it could be really, really cool. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're pushing for 11,000 subs, and we'd really appreciate if you join us for the ride. I've been your host, Josh Gosse. I'll catch you in the next one.